Melchizedek, folks, back by popular demand. Melchizedek of Nebadon, teaching about the concept of deity and reality. Remember, God is a word symbol designative of deity and divinity. Deity is the personalizable aspect of God, a personality that we can relate to. Divinity is the all-pervasive, surrounding us, spiritual force, the non-personalizable aspects. So keep in mind, God is both of those things. Now, let's look at deity and reality. This answers a lot of questions for us, so let's dive right in on page 1152 to the Urantia book, and let's see how Melchizedek breaks down these extremely advanced concepts of deity and reality. Remember, this is always to help us individually on our own ascension, and as we do that, then we help change the world as it quite desperately needs it, folks. To even high orders of universe intelligences, infinity is only partially comprehensible. That's important to note. High orders, we're not a high order, although we can attain and earn that as we go. But infinity is only partially comprehensible. So don't even bother. Don't even rack your mind or try to go into some abstraction or try to go into what I find a lot of the time when people go into that abstraction is they gain this ego that's supposedly trying to break down their ego, but then they have to be like the only one who really can understand this thing, so that you get this ego vibe from them. But just don't even try. It's only partially. I mean, you can, if you're interested in it and you want to meditate on it and stuff, then go for it, but don't rack your brain and pull out your hair thinking that you're going to comprehend infinity. And the finality of reality is only relatively understandable, folks. Even if you do go into the cave for 8 years to meditate, you're only going to get partial compared to what's out there. We're dealing with eternity. We're dealing with infinity. The human mind, as it seeks to penetrate the eternity mystery of the origin and destiny of all that is called real, may helpfully approach the problem by conceiving eternity infinity as an almost limitless ellipse, which is produced by one absolute cause. So don't throw up your hands and say, hey, it's hopeless, we just lost, we're eternally going to be lost. No, because there is this absolute cause, and it just so happens to be personalizable as a parent figure that can help you attain as much as you'll fully be satiated and satisfied with. You won't feel that, oh geez, I'm not able to attain as much, I'm forever going to be feeling incomplete. No, you're going to be fully beyond satiated, and which functions throughout this universal circle of endless diversification, ever seeking some absolute and infinite potential of destiny. So there's a purpose and a reason. When the mortal intellect attempts to grasp the concept of reality totality, such a finite mind is face to face with infinity reality. Eventually you're going to have to face it. Reality totality is infinity, and it therefore can never be fully comprehended by any mind that is sub-infinite in concept and capacity. Now, we do have the capacity to tap into higher and access higher minds, but then we're working on spiritual levels and understandings, and I don't even believe that in that state you can even comprehend it all, because as it says, even high orders of intelligence, universe intelligence, they obviously know how to tap into their spiritual mind or cosmic mind, and they're still not even comprehending it. But the more cosmic that you get in scope of your mind, the more that you're going to have the capacity to comprehend. However, it might not be the totality. The human mind can hardly form an adequate concept of eternity existences, and without such comprehension, it is impossible to portray even our Melchizedek's concepts of reality totality. Nevertheless, we may attempt such a presentation, although we are fully aware that our concepts must be subjected to profound distortion in the process of translation modification to the comprehension level of the mortal mind. The philosophic concept of the I Am. Absolute primal causation in infinity, the philosophers of the universes attribute to the universal Father. So you could almost just rest your mind on that. Functioning as the infinite, the eternal, and the absolute I am. They even called it a philosophic concession that they need to make in order to put these terms into the mind. You know, you're trying to take spiritually infinite terms and put them into things that the thought pattern can recognize. So they make this concession considered the I am. So let's read more about it. There are many elements of danger attendant upon presentation to the mortal intellect of this idea of an infinite I am, since this concept is so remote from human experiential understanding. So they're saying, you know, your people are living your lives and you're doing your lives. Sitting there and trying to postulate the I am is not really what this stratosphere is all about. This is about, I mean, you have the relationship with the divine, but let's read more. Understanding as to involve serious distortion of meanings and misconception of values. Nevertheless, the philosophic concept of the I am does afford finite beings some basis for an intended approach to the partial comprehension of the absolute origin and infinite destinies. But in all our attempts to elucidate the genesis and fruition of reality, let it be made clear that this concept of the I am, in all personality, meanings, and values, synonymous with the first person of deity, okay? Person of deity, the universal Father of all personality. They just say Father, but remember, they also say in other parts of the book, the name is what you choose to do it. The Father of all personalities. But this postulate of the I am is not so clearly identifiable in undeified realms of universal reality. Okay, those are what your Buddhists are tapping into, and that's why they come out of it and say there's no such thing as God. That's how they can say that. Or your Hindus who say there's no God personality, or whichever other one, Eastern mysticism, Zen, whatever you want to call it, because there's these undeified realms, deity meaning personality. The I am is the infinite. The I am is also infinity. From the sequential time viewpoint, all reality has its origin in the infinite I am, whose solitary existence in past infinite eternity must be a finite creature's premier philosophic postulate. So, folks, when you're trying to contemplate the Big Bang, yeah, the scientists are all right, and all this energy did happen and everything, but they don't know what happens before that, because that's when you have to get into the I am. That's when you have to, you know, become spiritually minded, because that's what creation is. That's where your science breaks down, and they see it. If their science didn't break down, then they'd be able to say, all right, well, we can just go back even further and say this caused it. But they're thinking they're going to work on it and figure it out. But there's going to be there's a limit in the universe as to what science and materialism and even mind and even philosophy can hit on. And they're explaining that limit right now. Remember, this stuff isn't just for far off kind of, you know, contemplation. Remember, this is the great unifier. This is to be the great unifier that helps get humanity on the same side. The problems of the world are intricately interwoven like chains and knots in a jewelry box. So you can't just look at it and say, oh, healthcare is the issue. Well, also our food is the issue. Our lobbying is the issue. Our politics are the issue. Our crime is the issue. Genetics, blah, blah, blah. There's so many interwoven issues, and people have the half-truth on all of that. So we could try to unwind one of them. If we try to unwind what's the problem with healthcare, sick care, as I should call it, or insurance companies, then as you're unwinding that one, there's going to be new knots added over here in the jewelry box, because each day new knots are being added to this complexity. Your greed, your violence, weapons manufacture, blah, 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 blah. Personal, individual things I'm pointing out there, but I can point to my own self. What are the things that I need to get better at that we can each point to and say, these are X, Y, Z, okay? So as you're unwinding this one's adding more knots and things like that. But what is the answer to all of that? You go to the I am, you go to God. And when that happens, then you're tackling all of the different issues from the universal standpoint. That's the reason that we're knotted up in this world right now, is because it is an anti-God planet. If we all realized we were all on the same team, on the same universe, we could argue about various viewpoints and opinions and how to do the right way to do the best thing. But eventually we're all gearing towards the same goal, right? Okay, let's read on. Postulate. The concept of the I am. So I just wanted to point that out because, yeah, we're talking about super deep, crazy stuff here. But it really is applicable because it helps. Everybody has this different understanding, whether it be East and West. And these are our advanced thinkers, you know. These are our advanced spiritualists and things like that who aren't just programmed robot-minded people that are just going through. But they're advanced and yet they're still in disagreement. Let's see what the unification here is. Connotes unqualified infinity, the undifferentiated reality of all that could ever be and all of an infinite eternity. Everybody gets satiated and satisfied no matter what viewpoint you're coming from here, folks. Except if you have some sort of chip on your shoulder that says that you can't correct your previous things. And I can see that and sense that in the comments when I see people just like, oh, this is just garbage. Well, why? What do you disagree with? Are you disagreeing with, as an existential concept, the I am is neither deified nor undeified? No, you're not disagreeing with that. All of the Eastern mystics and things like that, that's exactly what they're agreeing. Look at, as an existential concept, the I am is neither deified nor undeified. See? That satisfies all of your Eastern, Buddhist, Zen, mysticism, things like that. It's neither of those. Right? As an existential concept, but we're in experiential here happening. But anybody, if you're Eastern and you want to throw away the Urantia book because it says the word God the Father, well, you're also throwing away your same thing, but you're not being open to adding. And the same thing goes with your Christians, whatever, anybody, all of them. All of them can find their synthesis here. This is the unifier, folks. This book is truly what it is. It's a revelation like has never been seen here on the planet. And I don't know. I forget. Neither actual nor potential, neither personal nor impersonal, neither static nor dynamic. See, it is that unity. No qualification can be applied to the infinite except to state that the I am is. The philosophic postulate of the I am is one universe concept which is somewhat more difficult of comprehension than that of the unqualified absolute. I mean, I can't even wrap my mind around the unqualified absolute, personally. I thought that was the most, but the I am is even beyond that. So, I mean, it's nice to know that they're there, and it's interesting and fun because it's kind of a neat little thought experiment to put your mind and try to like penetrate into these things. But then eventually you just got to be like, all right, well, what am I going to do now? Okay, I got to go mow the lawn. To the finite mind, there simply must be a beginning. And though there never was a real beginning to reality, still there are certain source relationships which reality manifests to infinity. The pre-reality, primordial, eternity situation may be thought of something like this. All right, pre-reality, folks. How are you even, Melchizedek, how are you even possibly going to describe pre-reality to us? Here we go. At some infinitely distant hypothetical past eternity moment, the I am may be conceived as both thing and no thing, as both cause and effect, as both volition and response. At this hypothetical eternity moment, there is no differentiation throughout all infinity. And when is it? It's infinitely distant. It's a hypothetical. There's no differentiation through all infinity. Infinity is filled by the infinite. The infinite encompasses infinity. This is the hypothetical static moment of eternity. Actuals are still contained within their potentials, and potentials have not yet appeared within the infinity of the I am. But even in this conjectured situation, we must assume the existence of the possibility of self-will. This is why it's a revelation to what just this pure state of infinity and oneness and things like that. Because if there's a self-will, there's self. So it's, again, and how can you comprehend that? I just go back to the fact that there's God, the personality of the Father. I mean, that just Father, Mother, whatever. That to me is like, okay, that's it. I mean, that's just such fundamental reality that it even transcends this hypothetical, soup of infinity. Ever remember that man's comprehension of the universal Father is a personal experience, folks? They say that God is more interested in the scientist than the science. So, if you write a postulate on a piece of paper, even this book, like we say, it's tightly shut. It's just a block of wood. Your personal experience with that's going to be the life-changing, world-changing thing, not the hypostulate about whose ideas are correct on paper. God as your spiritual Father is comprehensible to you and all other mortals, but your experiential, worshipful concept of the universal Father must always be less than your philosophic postulate of the infinity of the first source and center, the I am. When we speak of the Father, we mean God as he is understandable by his creatures, both high and low. So look at this. This is a juicy statement here. Your experiential, worshipful concept of the universal Father must always... So you're experiencing, you're worshiping God. They're almost saying that you have to step it down in order to personally relate. But if you try to do a little bit of a mental postulate here, a philosophic postulate, and go beyond to what might that being be like? You're going one step a little bit beyond you just simply being a child and sitting there and being able to pray to this Father type of thing. You're going one step deeper than how we might teach a child what God is. When we speak of the Father, we mean God as he is understandable by his creatures, both high and low. But there is much more of deity which is not comprehensible to the universe creatures. And we can just have an understanding of that, even if we don't know what it is. We can just say, oh, it makes sense to me. God, your Father, and my Father is that phase of the infinite which we perceive in our personalities as an actual experiential reality. But the I am ever remains as our hypothesis of all that we feel is unknowable, of the first source and center. And even that hypothesis probably falls far short of the unfathomed infinity of original reality. The universes of universes, with its innumerable hosts of inhabiting personalities, is a vast and complex organism. But the first source and center is infinitely more complex than the universe. Infinitely more. They say, that statement, God is love, they say that God is infinitely more than love. All right. The universe personalities which have become real in response to his willful mandates. When you stand in awe of the magnitude of the master universe, pause to consider that even this inconceivable creation can be no more than a partial revelation of the infinite. Wow. All right, let's see. Infinity is indeed remote from the experience level of mortal comprehension. But even in this age on Urantia, our planet, your concepts of infinity are growing, and they will continue to grow throughout your endless careers, stretching onward into future eternity. Unqualified infinity is meaningless to the finite creature, but infinity is capable of self-limitation and is susceptible of reality expression to all levels of universe existence. You see that? You're stepping down infinity to have this relative time-space reality. So it's important that we live here in this time-space reality because that's where we are. But you can be minded towards these other things and expand and have them be the unifying creator. We're creatures created by a creator, meant to have a relationship with that creator. Meant to. There's no other way to solve world problems, world difficulties, personal problems, personal difficulties, reach that highest level, unless you eventually have that relationship with the creator. Make peace with God. Don't just make it a philosophic concept that's non-personal deity, because you're really not having a relationship with the creator. Reality expression to all levels of universe's existence, and the face which the infinite turns towards all universal personalities is the face of the Father, the universal Father of love. Look at that, people. Who would possibly in their right mind want to disagree with Melchizedek on that one? Look at that. Who would do that? Who would say, no, we don't think so? We think it's a universal force of gravity. Well, whatever. I mean, but see, that's the problem with half-truth, because there is also that. You know, our scientists are correct about these universal forces and things like that, but they're just, you got to take it further, and you got to take it one step further, and one step further, until you're finally, once you take it to the level where you're having this relationship with deity, then you can just relax and flow, because then it's just going to unfold at this pace which you choose, and the divine right order of things. And one liner for you today: things don't happen in your right order or my right order. They happen in the divine right order. So relax and flow, and keep yourself minded towards all of these things. Love, deity, divinity. Look at deity and reality. Okay, not deity and false reality or programmed reality. All right, folks, please like and subscribe. Thanks again to everybody out there, and carry on and on.